Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is the Game Day Hour. Welcome, not really back, but kinda back to the Fantasy Football Team Review. In this series, we generally take a look at each and every 32 NFL franchises to see what they offer for fantasy football, but in today's episode, we're actually covering all 32 NFL franchises, but specifically the defense. I've been talking about this for a while. As you all know, if you've been watching the Fantasy Football Team Review, I take a look at the quarterback, running back, wide receiver 1 and 2, tight end, and starting kicker, but I never took a look at the defense because I wanted the defense to be on its own video. I was wondering how I was going to do it, but I finally figured it out. So, in case you guys are unfamiliar with this, there is a website called the Tier List Maker, and essentially what it does is it allows you to take any category in the world, whether it be like sports, food, video games, or whatever you want it to be, and it will put it into a tier list form. A tier list is basically like you have certain sections that go in, and if you're at the top section, that means it's the best of the best. If you're all the way down here, it's the worst of the worst, and you basically just rank based off that. You don't go in numerical order, you just go based on what tier they're in. Well, we're going to be using that today to generate which defense is the best and which is the worst. And before we get started into this, I'm going to move over to that screen in just a minute just so you can see what it's like. And we're going to get started with that. But I do want to put down one thing, which is how it generally works. So I am ranking teams based on a few fantasy components. That is points allowed, interceptions, sacks, fumbles, turnovers in general. So that's of course the fumbles and the sacks, and maybe points. But we are taking a look at what is going to generate the best points for defenses and what you want when it's time to draft for fantasy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Now, let's get started. So this is essentially what the Tier List Maker Hub kind of looks like. You have the 5 tiers, and we have all the teams down here. And by the way, I cannot tell if I am glitching or not. I know you can hear my voice, but if it looks like I'm being very buggy or glitchy down there, then don't worry about it. I'm going to put everything up on the tiers and you'll see exactly where every team goes, so don't worry about the whole glitchiness. It's probably just a one-time thing anyways. I have my phone out with me to also take some notes and pointers at the same time and take a look at certain teams and what they were able to do last year and what they're able to do this year. And so we have 5 tiers. We have S tier, which is the best defense, the best of the best. We have A tier defense 1 or 2, which is like a defense that could either act as your starting defense or your bench warmer. And then we have the general bench warming defenses / defenses that may be high on free agency. Bad defenses, obviously. And then, of course, the worst of the worst. And so we're going to do this in order, which seems to be in alphabetical order, which is nice. So we're not going to be skipping ahead. And yeah, let's get started. I'm not going to dwell too much on each defense. I'm going to do like a little quick report, and that's about it. I already told you everything in the intro. Let's get to it. First, we're starting off with the Arizona Cardinals, a team we covered in the last few episodes last week. And I would have to put them as awful. If you go onto these projected sites, fantasy-wise, the Cardinals are at the bottom. And they really don't have that great of a defense. I mean, J.J. Watt just retired, and their defense looks fairly new. I mean, you got Budda Baker, but then that's about it. And so I don't see this team being that great this year. They could start making some free agency moves and start looking into the draft, but they were projected to get Will Anderson, and of course, you know, the Texans ended up getting him through a trade with the Cardinals, so kind of missed out on that opportunity. But hey, it's okay. You know, they're in that building phase, and we'll figure out what type of defense this team will be, but for right now, they are one of the worst. Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons the last few years just been having awful defenses, and I would say that they have made some improvements. So even though with those improvements, I would have to put them as well down in the awful tier, but better than the Arizona Cardinals. I still think this team has to prove itself, and if you take a look onto whether you're on Yahoo Fantasy or if you're on ESPN Fantasy and you're looking at the projections, they're on the bottom half. Some people would probably want to put them right here, but I think right here, until I see some major improvements, which I have not seen those major improvements yet, they are just going to be right here for now. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens, solid defense, and I'm actually going to put them at an A-tier defense. I don't think they're the best of the best, but they got some weapons. Their secondary looks amazing. They have about a bunch of young guys going in, and they look like they're going to be able to do some work on the defensive end, which is why I think that the Ravens will also have a really good year. And, you know, they're really good in the secondary game, so I'm generally basing a lot of this stuff on like interceptions, forced turnovers, because they are really good at forcing turnovers. So very, very well needed for defenses. The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, even though I don't think they have the best defense in the game, I'm going to put them at S tier. There's only a few teams I'm going to put up here. I'm not going to put everyone up here. There's like maybe 4 or 5 teams, but for right now, they are an S tier defense. I mean, take a look at what they have. Their young core is amazing. You got Edmonds in the linebacker core. You got a great secondary. They force turnovers, and that defensive line, just got so much better in the offseason. So they're pretty balanced on all ends of the defense, from the front to the back, and I believe that Buffalo is going to make some plays happen. In fact, I think that there's a good potential that their defense is the best part of their team, because generally it's the offense. But I don't think that their offense is better than their defense this year, which is not a bad thing. They still have a great offense. All right, next up we have the Carolina Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers are kind of middle tier. They're in the middle of the pack, so I'm actually going to put them at the borderline defense too. I do think that their defense is pretty young, but they made some pretty good moves, and their secondary is led very well. I believe that the Carolina Panthers this year will be able to be like a bench warmer team that sits on your bench for the most part, except for the few games when they play lower tier offenses, and then they are just going to blast. And it's a really good thing. So I'm going to put them right here for now. The Chicago Bears. I'm trying to think if I want it in one of the two, because when you take a look at the Bears defense, it doesn't look that great. I'm going to say that the Bears are a bad defense. So, of course, you know, the Roquan Smith, he left. Khalil Mack left a few seasons ago. They don't really have a lot here. But I don't know. I think that their defense can get better, but right now it's the offensive show for Chicago that I think is the most noteworthy, and I believe they belong right here. They could get to right here, but it's really close. All right, we now have the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals team all around is a really good team, but their defense, somewhere in here, I'm going to put them as a high B tier defense too. And that's because they do come up with very big plays. If you remember the game against the Ravens and come up with that fumble recovery for a touchdown, they are able to pull off a lot of great things. And this defense seems, for the most part, intact. Of course, you have some people that left, like Eli Apple left. But yeah, I think right here, B tier defense 2/borderline is a good place to have them. The Cleveland Browns, a really good front. And I think that the Browns defense is up here. Do I think they're better than the Ravens? I'm going to say no, but they got a great front. Myles Garrett, of course, runs that defense. He's a beast and a half. And they got a lot more coming. I think the Browns, pretty young and pretty dominant, to say the least. Only problem is, can that offense get going? They have the weapons. The question is, can they do it? I don't know. But right now, definitely draftable. For sure. The Dallas Cowboys. So if you asked me 3 years ago about the Dallas Cowboys defense, it'd be right here. If you ask me about it now, they are clearly an S tier. Micah Parsons is incredible. he is going to potentially have so many sacks this year, and you need that for your defense. I mean, I don't know about the interceptions. Of course, you got Gilmore and you got Trevon Diggs back there, which is great. Linebacker core, because Micah's moving to the defensive line, is kind of their Achilles heel, their defense, but I don't think it's too bad to the point where they're not going to be down here. They're definitely up here. I mean, they hold you to little points. I mean, in the game they lost to San Francisco in the playoffs, they only held the Niners to 19 points. That was a very powerful offense. So yeah, right here is a good place to have them. The Denver Broncos. So one thing about the Denver Broncos that often makes them a fantasy skipper is that their team was really bad last year, but that was their offense. Their defense, on the other hand, kept them in games generally. And you got a very young core. Patrick Surtain is starting to become one of the best in the business. And I believe that because of him, you're going to get a lot of turnovers this year. It's just, can that offense click? If that offense can click, then the Denver Broncos can be a playoff team because they have the defense to do it. They're very young and very experienced. So I believe they're right here at A tier. The Detroit Lions. So Lions a little bit of a tricky one for me to take a look at. But one thing about the Lions is that they have made some pretty good moves. So of course, you know, Aiden Hutchinson in the draft a few years ago, and then they picked up Gardner Johnson from the Eagles. They've made some pretty good moves. Right now, I would say that they are in B tier. I think that you have to see a little bit more from them. But B tier seems like it's going to be a fairly nice spot to have. I mean, I don't think it's a terrible spot. I think it's pretty decent for what they have. They just got to put it together. Let's see this season and see what they're able to do. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are going through a bit of a change on offense. I don't think their defense has changed much, though. I believe their defense is, I'm going to say, top of B tier. They are generally a really good defense to have on the bench, and for some games they can be up here. I think their defense is pretty good, but how many opportunities will the offense allow for the defense to rest, you know, stay on the field longer? Because I believe because of that short offense that the defense is going to be a little strained up here, which is why they're at B tier. If you had a better offense, I'd say they'd be right here. And people are like, really? You're going to base their ranking on their offense? I mean, if you're looking at points, the more they're on the field, the more tired they get, the more they're going to allow for big plays to happen on the opposing team, and so that's where you kind of want them. The Houston Texans. They got Will Anderson, but that's just one move. It's a good move in the right direction, but it's just one move. And so the Texans, of course, is going to come down to their offense. Can their offense click? It's kind of like a Green Bay Packers situation. Can their offense click to the point where they can get some rest? I just don't think it's going to happen this year. Maybe in about a few years, this team will bump up to somewhere in here, but right now I would say no. The Indianapolis Colts. Do they belong down here? I mean, is that offense going to click? I am not very sure. I think that they do have some pieces to be very good, and I'm going to put them right here at C tier. I think they have a pretty good front, but I think everywhere else needs some help. And because that offense is going to probably be going through some relapses, maybe even struggling at times, I think right here is a fair place to have them. I wouldn't put them down here with the Texans, but I still think they're going to be a struggling defense, and their defense is, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that great this year. The Jaguars. The Jaguars have gotten really good. Their offense has gotten really good, but their defense has also made some major improvements. I'm going to put the defense, I'm going to put it right here. I do want to see a little bit more. I mean, you've seen some flashes. They don't got the Jalen Ramsey anymore, but they got a lot of new defenders, and they're a much better team overall. I think right here is a nice place to have them. I would put them right here, but maybe one more year. Just one more year. I'll have them right there. I mean, they're still draftable, so you can look forward to that one. The Kansas City Chiefs. This is always confusing because I generally look at the Chiefs as offense favorite, but not really much on the defensive side. But I will say their defense has gotten a little better. Am I going to put them here at the A tier list? I don't think so. I think I would rather have them right here. I think their offense is going to give them a lot of chances to have a lot more rest, but generally I would like to see more from the Chiefs. These last few years, like you had 2021, they were meh at best, but I think that this is a fair spot for them. A pretty fair spot, I think. The Chargers. The Chargers got a really good front. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and they made some pretty good moves on defense this year, but the Chargers in general, just they sometimes feel like they're a little inaccurate, and that's concerning. Because of the firepower, like the talent they have on their team, I would put them here. I'm not putting them over these defenses, but I think with the firepower they have up front, they have a pretty good defense, and their offense will give them a lot of opportunities to rest. So I think here is a fair spot. I don't know how much you use the Chargers defense, but I think right here is a nice place to have them. Next up, the LA Rams. I mean, they still got Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald is still pretty dominant. But I would say that they have lost Jalen Ramsey, and their defense does feel a little bit weird. But I still have them as an A-tier defense. When you got Aaron Donald on your team, you're going to get sacks, you're going to move the line. It's going to happen. I mean, I'd be shocked if it didn't. So yeah, A tier is a pretty nice spot. The Raiders. Oh, the Raiders feel so. I don't know where to put them. I mean, you got Max Crosby, and he's amazing, but that rest of that Raiders defense, I just don't think does enough for the offense to get the help that they need. And I feel like the Raiders are, I'm not calling them awful, but I would put them in the bad tier. One guy is not going to get it done. I don't know what the Raiders' identity on defense is. I generally never know, because they can feel like a great defense at one point when they had Khalil Mack, but ever since then they just don't feel like they got that defensive power that you'd wish they'd have. The Miami Dolphins, man, did they take a blow losing Jalen Ramsey. Not for this season, but for a little bit. Even with that said, they are still a really good defense. I put them above the Rams, actually. Dolphins still got Xavier Howard, and they just recently picked up Eli Apple. That's a good secondary. And then when Ramsey gets back, they're going to have an incredibly amazing and deep secondary. And of course, up front, they've always been pretty good up there. Sorry, getting a little cramp back here. But this is a good spot to have them. Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, I'm going to put back here. I think that their defense is pretty inaccurate. I've seen so many games where they've gotten blasted, and you can probably say it's partially the offense's fault, but I just think that they have given up too much. I mean, in the win against the Colts, they gave up a lot in the first half. Of course, we know that Cowboys game, the 40-3, that wasn't a good showing either. So right here is a good spot to have them. I still think they are semi-draftable, but I feel like they would be more of a bench team than anything else. The New England Patriots. Matthew Judon and that defense for the Patriots is pretty good. Do I put them higher? I don't know. I think I would put them here. I think they are an A-tier defense in general, but they're close to being a low or a high B, but I think a low A is where I'd have them. I think they have the right pieces and the defensive mindset to be very good. The Saints just made some moves with Cameron now. They have pretty locked down defense, pretty good in general. Saints, I don't think I'm going to put them at A tier necessarily. I'll put them at a high B tier. I think they are definitely draftable. I don't know how much you're going to start them this year. Like, if not, I don't really think you're going to start them that much, if I'm being honest. All right, what else do we got? We got the New York Giants. The Giants made some very nice moves on defense. I probably put them right here, just behind the Saints, just a little bit. They are definitely somebody you're going to want to draft in the year. I think they're going to really help that offense in many ways. And I believe it's through turnovers that they're going to get it. They have such a young core that I think is going to figure it out, and especially up front. The Jets do have a great defense, with a very, very good secondary led by Sauce Gardner. I'm going to put them right here. Just overall, pretty balanced team. But their defense, especially in the secondary, beautiful, very nice. Philly is going to jump to S tier. They, in my fantasy league last year, were ranked as the best defense by points scored. So I believe they deserve to be right here. I don't think they're much better than the Cowboys. They have lost a lot of big players like Hargraves and Gardner Johnson, but they are still packed up front specifically. Up front, they are loaded. So that's where I have it. The Steelers offense is gonna need to help out this defense a lot, but when you have a defense led by TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick, here you go. They're going to be right here at the A tier defense. They're still somebody very draftable and potentially a good starter defense. So they're going to be right here. They're going to force a lot of turnovers as well. The Seahawks. I believe the Seahawks are somewhere down here. I really give a lot of credit to that offense. That offense is hot. It's big. It's great. The defense, even though they have made some good moves in the draft, they're still unproven to me yet. I think they're going to be right here. This is not like the Legion of Boom defense in the early 2010s decade, but still pretty solid. Potentially a good draft pick. The 49ers, there's no question. I'm not even going to talk about this. Nope, they're right here. Best defense in the league. In my league, they are projected to be the best in almost every single category. So I'm not even going to question that. The Buccaneers. Losing Tom Brady, that offense is going to stutter a little bit, but they are still great on the defensive end, and I just think that their defense is going to keep them in games for the most part. I mean, last year their defense was all right, I guess, but right here seems like a good spot. The Tennessee Titans. I have never been big on the Titans defense. I'm going to say they're right here. They don't do enough for me. And so I kind of rely on that offense. And the offense did get a big upgrade in DeAndre Hopkins, but defense is just... I'm not saying it's really bad, but I don't have a big liking for that defense at the moment. And Washington for me is getting back Chris Young. I believe they are right here for now. I think their defense is going to be their biggest help, but they're going to need to get that offense moving, or else the defense isn't going to do too much. I believe they're right here, and this is the tier list for all the defenses. I think that the top dogs, if you're going for a heavy defense to lead your fantasy team, these are the main four: San Fran, Dallas, Philly, and Buffalo. I believe that these defenses are really going to shine this year. I mean, they're on the top of nearly every category. And one of the wilder picks, so Kansas City in high projections is 5th, but I just don't see them being 5th. That's the one team that doesn't feel like really belongs, but I don't know. That's just me. These are the 4 teams. I would say these teams are pretty avoidable. Not the teams I wouldn't really have too much high hopes on. These teams can definitely do some damage, but I don't know, there's a lot of question marks there still. These teams are generally going to want to draft as well. Miami, once they get Jalen Ramsey back, could be a defense that goes up here, but for now they're right there without him. And then of course the Jets, another big one. Yeah, this is the tier list, and I'm so glad I did it in this way, because looking at it now, I feel very confident looking at this list. And so I hope you guys are confident as well in this list and in general, because I really feel this way about all those defenses. So yeah, that's what we have so far. These are where the defenses belong in my category. And that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. I hope this episode helps you out. The next video is going to be how I draft. Like, what do I do on draft day for fantasy football, and see if you guys want to take that advice, or if you don't want to. But it's going to be a pretty fun video to make, and I hope it's very informative like this episode. And if you like this, of course, go follow me on Facebook, follow me on X, go follow me on Instagram, go follow me there. They're all in the description. And these next few weeks are going to be pretty fun for video making. By the way, like this background, this is a very, very nice background. We got all that stuff, my name, all of my social media, and then kind of what I do right behind. I got a whole new setup before. Like, I know, like, over there is where I used to record, in that general area. Now I have my desk kind of set in a little bit of the middle of my room. Not really, because my bed's literally on the opposite side of this camera. And so I got my desk, got me, and that's the wall with my background. It's really cool. I like the setup. It feels very professional, and I like it. But yeah, those videos are what's coming up next. But yeah, those videos are what is coming up next. Next week is going to be extremely fun, so I hope you guys are looking forward to that. And I should be getting some better lighting as well. I'm going to get some more upgrades to this setup, so I can't wait. But yeah, that'll do it for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day, take care, and goodbye.